It is 4 o'clock. I appreciate everybody. Just want to start off by just again thanking everybody for being on this Zoom call. And one thing I've learned in my life is that you can't do things by yourself, and that you must join with like-minded people. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I feel we all have the same mindset of creating unity in our community and bringing people together to make change. And so I'm going to go ahead and have Trey say something here real quick, and we'll get right into
it. Hey, hello everyone. Once again, I want to thank you guys for being a part of this. It really means a lot to me. My name is Trey Moore. I had a long relationship with Floyd. That was my boy, 35 years. Like Jack said, man, we've been brothers forever. It just kind of touched me a different way, seeing what happened to him on TV. Like I said, I know his whole story from 7 to 8 years old to what we seen on TV. So I work with a lot of kids out here in Atlanta, work with a lot of kids all over, and just touched me, man. I just wanted to get the message out to the kids and the youth about the social injustice and unity and everything, the climate that we're in right now. So thank you guys for showing up, and we hope we can educate you guys and answer a lot of questions that we need to get answered, and just help each other get through this thing together.
That's good. That's good. And y'all pray for Trey, because this is his first time on Zoom. So I know we all.
Yeah. I've been knowing Trey all my life, and that's the best he done spoke.
Oh man, so we appreciate that. We're gonna get right into it, man. I want to just introduce. We have on the line here. We have Brother Steven Jackson. He's been doing a great thing in the community. We appreciate all that you're doing. Smitty, Steve Smith, good friend of mine, and he's always doing stuff in the community. Also Antonio Davis is on, another good friend of mine, and is doing great stuff in the community. Mahmoud Abdul Raouf, I've known him for 20-some years. Great guy too, and is doing stuff in the community. And also my close friend, attorney Justin Miller, we have on the line, and we also have Pastor Jamal Baker on the line. So we appreciate everybody here. Wanted to introduce everybody. We're going to go right into the questions that we're going to bring up here in regards to just the what we're talking about. The first question we want to bring out to Brother Mahmoud is racial injustice has risen to the forefront in one of the most dramatic ways in decades. Why do you think so many people have responded at this level around the world? Why do you think so many people have responded to in such a big way, Brother Mahmoud? You being pretty much the pioneer of this. So what would you say, sir?
That's a great question, and there are numerous reasons that I don't know if we'll have enough time to recapitulate or enumerate during this Zoom meeting. But I was reading a book, man, and it was by this sister called Ajima Luo, and she made a comment before I get into the details. She said that until we begin to when we begin to identify where one's privilege intersects with another's oppression, then we'll be on our way towards meaningful change, right? And I was looking at an article, and it was talking in particular, and because I know this whole meeting is about also unity, right? Bringing people together. And when you look at social movements throughout history, whether it's South Africa, whether it's what's happening in colonized Israel with the BDS movement, it is always taken both sides, the abolitionists, the whites, the blacks, because to see a common enemy, to see a common oppressor, when we deal with oppression, both are getting it. You got the poor whites, the working class, you got the blacks, and they're always trying to keep us divided to a large degree. And I was reading this article, and it was talking about, in particular, the white people. It was saying that a lot of the things that kind of invited them or encouraged them to become active towards paying attention more to racial injustice, one was the election of Trump. And at the same time, the demagoguery on race that made the problem of American racism legible in ways that it hadn't before, right? And a lot of them began to join, whether it be women's movements and other political movements. So when the death of, even though these type of things have been happening prior to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, you know, the human eyes and the human soul can only take so much before it becomes like a powder keg and or like a volcano and it explodes. So, you know, looking at, you know, the factor of Trump, his language, and joining these movements. So when it finally happened, you know, they were already plugged in to a degree. But then you had, you know, at the same time, the mishandling of the pandemic. We can't ignore that. The struggles that's associated with okay. Can you still hear me?
We got you. We got you. Good.
We got you.
Okay. The mishandling of the pandemic, the people who have established their business for years, now losing their businesses, and all the frustrations that's associated with that. But the blessing of that is it's also disrupted the routine. You know, we're in a society where, you know, it's such a hustle and bustle that we have to go to one job to the next job, tend to this, tend to that, that we don't have leisure to sit back and think and to ponder on the conditions of what's happening in the world around us. So now the pandemic kind of created that atmosphere, and to where we can sit back, and you can only watch TV for so long, you can only talk on the phone for so long, so you end up venturing off to social media. And the beauty about social media is that people are posting things constantly, right? They're posting things that maybe I would never see because there's such a flood of information in newspapers, magazines, and you come across stuff like, wow, I didn't know this was going on. I didn't know this was happening. But also because of the physical vulnerability that many people are going through, right? It kind of makes you a little bit more empathetic when you see other people going through things, right? People are scared about their future economically. They're scared about their physical health. And so I think those are some of the things that, you know, by and large, and the pandemic as well, it's kind of taken away many of the distractions that allow people to ignore the inequalities that exist. You know, so I think some of those things, all of those little mixtures of things kind of influence this newfound interest on focusing by and large on racial equality. I think also that there's a whole generation of people who, because of access to information through technology, understand American history differently. I think that when you look at American military as opposed to military spending, as opposed to social spending on healthcare, on education, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's the whole population, but I think many people are, according to the past generation and how we may view America, these young people are viewing America quite differently. And just looking at the history, man, like I said before about South Africa, it wasn't until, and that's the beauty of when I first started with Ajima Luo, when she said it's not until we identify with one's oppression intersects, or one's privilege intersects with another's oppression, we won't be able to reach or strive towards meaningful change. The beauty is when you see all of these people in France and all these different countries, is this type of thing, right? When you can see that, man, even though the oppression is kind of, there's similarities in oppression, but there's also a uniqueness that African Americans have with oppression that other people don't have, but people can still relate. Like, man, what you going through, we're going through on this end and we're going through on that end. And this is sometimes what the system don't want you to see. They don't want you to come together and see that. And I think this is what kind of sparked and enhances change more than anything, is when you're able to connect the dots, not just domestically, but globally, and pull all that together, because this is what changed the eradication of apartheid in South Africa. When people saw the marching on Selma Bridge, they said, well, hold on, man, this is brutal, right? This is oppressive. And they said, they start linking that with Durham. We're going through the same things here in the society that we're living in. So for me, I think those are some of the things, Pri, that have sparked this newfound interest in racial equality, man. And people are just pretty much, you know, they're fed up and they're tired of being pacified. The media can't control the narrative like it did before.
Right.
Right. People have phones, they're videoing, they're showing these images, and these images are just, I mean, they're gruesome. You know what I'm saying? And so you can only swallow so much right? And people are, and I think too, they're becoming more conscientious of, and you have a lot of people, and this is kind of radical. You know, Dr. Harry Edwards said there's a difference between change and progress. Not all change leads to progress. We're tired of people talking about, well, we're making changes, and they give us a lot of symbolisms over substance. Tear down a statue, right? Change the name of master bedroom, right? These are symbols, but it has nothing to do with substance. And so people becoming more aware of that, and we're tired of being pacified. But I think all of those things are leading to that. And there's a saying, I'm gonna end with this, man. There's a saying by Jasper Pure. He said, well, there's two. There's a saying that he says that to be calm, what must we forget to inhabit such a restful feeling? We've been pacified for so long and taught to be calm and patient, right? That we forgot. We literally forgot. And people are not, they're not going down that road anymore. They're not willing to be pacified anymore. And Huey P. Newton, man, is speaking about, he was speaking about reactionary suicide and revolutionary suicide, basically giving your life for a cause. And he said, it's not that we have a death wish. He said, it's quite the opposite, is that we have such a strong desire to live with peace and dignity that the existence without it is impossible. And so I think this is what's spurring, you know, what you're seeing now. People are just like, look, man, life ain't worth living without those things. And so I'm ready to go out swinging, you know, until we get what we want. And so I think those are some of the things that sparked it.
Mahmoud, and that's why, you know, one of the biggest reasons we're having this, as we unite, we come together. I just want to see if anybody wants to expound on what Mahmoud said there. Anybody, as we go into the second question there.
You know, I want to say something, just Mahmoud, just you spoke so eloquent. I just love how, you know, what I love is, and just for a lot of these young folks that we're looking at, because they're up next, is you said you read, you were reading, you were going to get information. And I just want to say for you, just for me, even hearing this at 51 years old, I resonate to look back when I was a young guy, young kid, that hearing that from you saying, I read. And I think that's one thing that's an unbelievable message, as of everything you said, but that stuck out to me, that what you have read and how you've gathered that information has helped you eloquently be able to speak and deliver the message.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And I tell you, there's one person on this call that taught me how to read, to be honest with you. so at 18 years old, so I'm being transparent, but I ain't gonna go too much further than that.
That's a true story. Let them know the truth.
But yeah, man. So we appreciate you guys. So we can go to the second question, and I believe that's Smitty. You got the second question?
Yes, Pre.
Okay, all right. So it was, what are some of the most important lessons that we need to teach our kids about how they should engage their world in this environment that we're in right today?
You know, I think we start off, and I'm humbly want to say, you know, at this age, there's a lot of us, especially as brothers, and yes, we have a lot to teach. But I wanted to start off to saying they're teaching us a lot. And I think when you start to look at this movement right here, you know, love everything that's been in the past, it's been because of the youngsters. And obviously we have to add to that. But I would say, just from my standpoint, is think critically. I just kind of piggyback off Mahmoud, what he said, just to add to that is, there's so much information coming to us, you know, from us as older gentlemen, and obviously for the youth that's next. There's social media, 4, 5, 6, 7 different ways of social media. There's, you know, radio, there's print, there's TV. If you can think critically and kind of narrow down 1 or 2 ways that you're gaining information and understand is, and be able to talk to somebody older, like your adults, that you have respect for, to say, how do I gain this information? And I think also be a little bit patient, process it, and also think critically. Just the way, because, you know, all these young brothers and sisters, they have that ability. I'm so amazed just looking at all these youngsters, whereas they have that energy, same type of energy you put in, waiting for those shoes to sign up from Foot Locker to eBay to be able to get them. It's the same way you take a little few seconds to look at what's going on, to be able to apply that information, and to be able to call all your buddies, and then to speak, you know, think about critically what we're doing. I think what next is, respectfully engage. You know, a lot of these young brothers right now they're so equipped to want to be right. You don't have to be right. You know what I mean? You have to, one thing is to be right about how we get to a solution. That's all we need to be, is how we gonna get to a solution. And I think also to be humble enough to know that we're all flawed. We're all flawed. I think the one thing is that we don't understand that we're all flawed and we're holding somebody to such a high standard of what they can't live in. We're all flawed. And I think also when you look at some people, and I always say, I'm gonna look at the person's intent. If their intent is what I believe in, is in line with what I am, is I can also, just like me, hopefully somebody can be humble enough to say, I'm not looking how he got there. Might not have been the best way, but his intent and his heart, I know where he's coming from. And I think also when you look at that too, is that understand is the youngsters, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I mean, that's the one thing, is you might not agree with it, but respect it that you're entitled to their opinion. And I love the quote of each one teach one. I mean, it's that right there just resonates so much. But I think we looking at it today, it has to be a lot of the brothers that can, it's got to be each one teach two, each one teach three. If you have that ability, because that's when I think we start to grow. And I just look at, you know, the next thing is being patient. I'm old school. My mom, I think I heard it so much, and I know y'all heard it. Treat people like you want to be treated. I mean, my mom drilled that for me. But that mom, I got it. But if you look back now at 51, I'm going back to that. Treat people how you want to be treated. And once again, I just thanks Pre, Trey, Captain Jack, AD, Mahmoud, all you guys, Jamal, and attorney. Thanks for having me on here.
Awesome.
I would say this too. If you're talking about how to make sure people get home from police interaction, you know, that's changed, because we used to tell kids, and I mean, people would tell me, my parents, you know, do what they say and you'll get home. You know, you said respect them, or they'll respect you and you'll make it home. And now we're seeing that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to make it home. And I think that's one of the sad things about all of this, is that the things we've been taught and the things we've been telling our kids are not necessarily the same things that are going to get us by going forward at this point. We saw with George Floyd, he complied and he still died. And we've seen that countless other times. And so while I will say to the youth, the best way to do it is to comply, get home, and then call somebody like me so we can go after the police, right? That doesn't always work. And that's why the energy of what we're doing today has to happen as well. So we can try to do all of those things, but we also have to push in another direction to change policing, because policing the community like it's a militarized state is never going to yield the results that we're talking about. It's going to always continue to happen as long as police are taught and trained to go in busting heads instead of figuring out what's wrong and dealing with the issues.
If I can say something on what Stephen Smith said, and I appreciate your response. Man, you said a lot of powerful things, and I'm so happy that you mentioned from the onset that we learn so much from the youth, because oftentimes it's one-sided. We think, well, just because we're older. I was just having this conversation a while back that we should run everything, we should be in charge of everything. But a lot of these youth have minds too. And if we're talking about, if, as some people say, pass the torch, right? We have to give them that autonomy. We have to allow them to lead, because many of them can lead better than us, because they're living under the same, you know, conditions that we're in. And when you were saying that, I thought about how teaching is always simultaneously connected with learning, right? Teachers also are students simultaneously. You never just one of them. And you can always learn from people. And, you know, thinking critically, I'm not going to like go through your whole speech, but thinking critically. And it made me think of this book. It's called The White Architects of Black Education. And the guy in there said something very powerful, talking about the embrace of colonialism, or the establishment of colonialism or oppression or whatever. He said, and it's something that we all got to remember. He said the textbook was used as often as the bullet in establishing the, you know, what we have today. So thinking critically has to be has to be key. You know, Frederick Douglass said, knowledge doesn't befit a man to be a slave. And so these are all of these leaders that came before us. These young people now are saying the same thing: respectful dialogue, humility. And I'm gonna end with this, because all of what you said, man, was just, my mind was just racing. And there's this quote that said, because you talked about how we have to be respectful, and we might not always agree with each other, which is key. And there's this saying I know a lot of you have heard: we have to learn to agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. But there's an ending, as long as our disagreement isn't rooted in our oppression. That's when the dynamics change. But just beautiful, man. I love what you had to say, you know, both of you.
And Pre, I wanted Jack to talk about this, because we've been out in all these places, and he's been shooting more than me. When I go home, he stays, and then I come back and he's still there. I mean, this is every time. And so the people I'm seeing, the energy I'm getting, this is all from young people. Like Mahmoud said, this is all young energy. I feel like our job is to help direct that energy into different places, but this is not us, this is them. And so what I always say is the new leaders are gonna come. The young people who are out there today, the new leaders are in there somewhere. We just have to kind of help develop them and help direct their energy. And then once they get it, they're going to run with it. So I love it. I agree with you that youth energy is what we need right now.
That's so good. That's so good, Justin, because one of the things I always say is that we have to reach back. And so who have you mentored lately? You know, you have to carry somebody with you. To raise your kids that's your job. But to raise somebody else's kid that's what we are called to do, is to help, especially kids that don't have fathers in the household. A lot of that's going on, and if we could do that, that would be huge. And so I appreciate what you said there, Justin. That's very, very good. Anybody else want to expound on Mahmoud? We might as well start class. Let Mahmoud be the teacher.
For real, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Don't put me on the spot like that.
Hey, I want to touch on that. The youth is woke. The youth is very woke.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you see, when they try to sabotage our marches, they try to sabotage our rallies and put pallets of bricks in the middle of nowhere, it's the youth that's putting it on Instagram. It's the youth that's putting it on Facebook. So they the ones are really behind this movement. They the ones that's really standing up. If you go to all these marches, even when I was in Minnesota from day one, it was the youth out there tearing shit up. I'm just being honest, you know. So the youth really, they're tired. They're tired of seeing the grandmothers. They're tired of hearing them stories from them about how they used to live and what they couldn't do and how they was restricted from life. And it's a new day. And I'm proud to lead them because I'm tired myself. You know, we all should be at this point. We all should be tired of asking. We all should be fed up at this point and making demands to be treated like humans and not like animals. So the youth understand, they get it.
Man, look.
New technology.
Yeah, you said a mouthful then, because what the youth established in Minneapolis with changing the operations of or changing the whole police system in that short time, legislation haven't done in 100 years. Right. That's what you call voting on the ground,
right?
Not in the ballot box. And so those things is what creates an environment for policies to happen, right? At the polls, where the local, you know, because I know we talked about the importance of local, you know, voting locally, but those are the type of moves, I mean, amazing. So you know, Stack is right. And we have to begin to communicate that, man. And that's the more we begin to communicate stuff like that, man, it emboldens and it empowers the youth even more to continue to do what they're doing.
Well, even since I've been in this, I had to learn this, you know, and we always talk about how racism starts at the top. And that's why we got to fight for the mayor, the police chief, all these local spots, because when you look at it, a long line of family that's been having these positions and they just been passing them down. They've been passing them down. And they keep that racist attitude in their family, and they keep these jobs between them. Well, when we get our races in there, different races and people to speak up for us, then that's how we actually gonna get equality. But my move, just like you and Steve said, I had to learn that. I didn't know this 5 years ago. I didn't know this actually 4 years ago. But me being in this position, me seeing my brother get murdered, is forcing me to educate myself. And so now they really have a problem with me now.
Hey, just do me a favor. Stack, do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
Don't broadcast where you going.
Yes, sir.
Don't let them know where you going. Just get there, man, because you don't want nothing to happen to you.
Yeah.
True. No, that is definitely true. For me, I think when you talk about teaching them how to engage in this environment, I think all the things we're saying are just so powerful. One, you got to educate yourself. You got to be knowledgeable about what's going on. And then the other thing is, like Steve said, you got to think about it. With all this information going on out there, you got to make sure that you engage. If you're out there and you're marching or whatever, you have one thing on your mind. What are we trying to get done today? And don't deviate from that, because there will be a pile of bricks here. There will be other people doing other things to pull you away. But you just can't let it happen. And I think as men, like we are now, we have to continue to educate, not just ours, but any young Black man we see out there and anybody else who will listen to us. We got to make sure we use our voices too, because I think sometimes we don't realize the power that we have and the things that we've seen and the connections that we've made. Yeah. So, I wasn't on social media. I never was, but I've been around Oakland. I've been talking to some powerful people. And I was like, man, I have got to get on, because the stuff that I even know and the stuff that I've heard, hopefully will be valuable as these young people are doing their thing. And I have to stop thinking that, I don't have a voice and I don't have things that can help them kind of get to that next point. So I think it's critical for us to continue to come together and speak on the same accord. We can talk about unity today. We talk about energy the next day. We talk about the way we think and educating ourselves the next day, and just continue on giving them these powerful messages as they are out there with all this energy. We're so laid back because we want to make sure things are being done the right way. And I was telling Stack before, I'm just so proud of him showing it's really the connection between, us, Steve, and the young people, is having a guy like Stack in the middle who is now getting educated, but now has the energy to go out and show them how to actually get things done. So I'm super excited about this movement. And if nothing else, I tell my son now too, and just like the attorney was saying, it's not just about complying. It's about really thinking about this environment. If you're stopped in a car, if you're walking down the street, if somebody accused you of something, your first reaction can't be this built up, anger. It has to be, well, what do I need to do to get out of this situation? And if something happens, then I'll go tell the appropriate people and we can get some things done. So I've been preaching that to my son for a while now. And I think it's, that message is sticking in his head. And we continue having those conversations about all different things, because he's running into things now that I didn't know he would, but it's out there and we have to continue to educate.
You said something, man. And one thing I tell my children, and I said, I was thinking about it, because you can be the most diplomatic, you can be angry, and nowadays, and it's like my brother said earlier, that sometimes it don't work, no matter how nice you are, how polite you are. I said, we need to start name dropping. And I literally told my children, when you know you're going to be traveling through certain areas, learn the name of the police chief.
That's it.
Hey man, hey, how's such and such doing? Yeah, we do, even if you don't know him.
That's what I think.
Right? Hey man, hey, how's Chief such and such, man? Now they might be, he knows the chief. Right. He knows this person. Sometimes you got to play that game just to survive. But we tired of surviving. We want to live, but you got to be smart. And I do it. Learn who they are. I'm in New York. driving. If I know I'm going through the Bronx, if I know I'm going through, hey man, such and such, Chief Johnson, hey man, yeah, we just played golf the other day, you know, whatever. Oh, they might be a little bit more hesitant and fooling with you. You
Yeah,
right.
smart.
Hey, Mamu, that's a good point, right? The other night I got off the plane and I got off the plane probably about 12-ish, and when I got down the street that is close to my house, and a police they ran the siren, start running me down, right? But I kept speeding because I'm like, I'm not stopping in the dark like this. I'm not stopping. So what I did is I was able to get on my street. I said, let me get on my street, because if I get on my street, at least my neighbors will see the lights and everything, right? And as soon as she pulled up, I name dropped, right? And I'm telling you, it made a big difference. So,
I grab my stuff before they even get there, and I throw my hands out the window, and I'm just like this the whole time.
Right. You gotta be.
It's the whole time.
Gotta be.
You can't say I was reaching for anything.
Right.
Hey, I wanna kind of piggyback on something that I heard Brother Stephen Jackson say, that because we're talking about some of our encouragement to youth and in encouraging them to go certain directions. And I just been reflecting on some things relative to even some of the issues as it relates to having Black leadership, because that, I think, one layer at those local levels is having good and competent Black leadership. But one of the things that the youth also need to recognize is the need to also hold Black leadership accountable when Black leadership gets into power. Because, you know, I'm from Atlanta. You know, I have never known anything other than Black leadership. But I spent a number of years working out in a more suburban area, and I came back to pastor literally in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And I'm looking at the neighborhood going, how did this successful middle-class Black neighborhood now become the hood under Black leadership? And so I'm looking at that saying, wait a second, there's still some issues of, problem when Blacks also get in power. And I was listening to some dialogue on NPR the other day, and people, there was another group of young people saying, hey, what's happening with our Black leaders who are allowing these things to happen under their governance? And I was really pleased to hear some of these young people say, hey, I'm calling out the councilman, the city councilman, who, when I'm presenting the needs in the community, and I know this councilman is from this community, and they're not responding. So we're also looking at voting you out. You know, so that's another layer here, that it's not really enough to elect Black leadership. The Black leadership that gets elected also has to be held accountable.
Yeah,
you know, for doing what you committed to do, because there's a dynamic that I have seen not only in our community, but I've witnessed this around the world. I mean, I've spent a lot of time, you know, in African nations and even lived in an African nation for some time. And I've recognized sometimes there's this dynamic that happens when power changes. And oftentimes the treatment under that new leadership now is same racial, but now it becomes classes. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that I think we've got to help young people be able to recognize and say, hey, you've got to be able to call this out when you see this too. Mm-hmm. So those are some things that I thought about as Brother Jackson was talking, that's just another layer that we need to also encourage our young people to be aware of as a potential problem.
And one thing I saying, you know, I'm in the slums. I'm with the guys in the hood every day. And two things I understand that they don't understand. One, we can't have Black people in office like the guy in Louisville, who's supposed to be, he's black in office and he's supposed to be arresting those cops, but he's too busy having a engagement party with his Caucasian wife and her whole family. We can't have people like that in office. So that's a different situation too, when we talk about people of color. Second, it's an answer to that. And a lot of guys in the hood don't understand that when we able to develop our neighborhoods, when we're able to develop the people, then that'll change. We won't have no hoods. We won't have no slums. It won't be no ghettos, because they spend money developing these arenas for all this stuff and developing all these buildings and these new apartment buildings, but they're not developing the people. So when we can force them to start developing the people and start developing money and business in our own neighborhoods, it won't be no ghettos, it won't be no slums, but they don't understand that. But see, when I talk to them, I can get them to understand things like that, but nobody is talking to them like that. Nobody is trying to help them understand things like that. So now I'm guys that's on the block that's all fighting for $5. They starting to understand, well, hey, it is a plan. It is something that we can do. It is things that we can start understanding to build our neighborhood up and stop killing each other. But nobody not having these conversations with them. And when we start, things will start to change that way too.
Yeah.
Stack, you said something that made me think about. You said until you begin to develop the hood, then these things will change. And it reminds me of what Amos and Wilson talked about, because oftentimes we'll build up our economy. You know, it made me think of 1921, Black Wall Street. Right, they had all of those things, but one of the things that they were missing also, as Amos and Wilson talks about, and this becomes radical. You know, people want to run away from radical changes, but it was radicalness that caused America to become what it was when it broke away from the British, right? And he talks about how we also need to develop an armed resistance force in our communities for when something like what happened back then and someone was accused of violating a white woman and those people came in that community, we didn't have no defense to protect ourselves. So it's one thing to have an economy, it's one thing, but history proves it. Rosewood, Black Wall Street, there's a list of it. So that's a dynamic too. And Jamal, you mentioned something talking about accountability, because we hear that a lot, and I agree with you 1000%. But we have to ask ourselves the question, what does this accountability looks like? We constantly, we've got to be accountable. We got to call them out. But there are things called accessory to, you know, I don't know what the names are legally, but when you're an accessory, right? Mm-hmm. When someone commits a crime and you're there, you can be charged just like you committed the crime with them. But also you have people, man, they've taken a vow not to violate the trust of the public. There should be, this is what I've suggested for the longest. If you are a politician, if you are a government official, you're getting paid by the state, taxpayers' dollars. You're not to violate the trust of the public, which causes this type of chaos, you know, because people get tired. You don't know who to trust anymore, right? Every year we're promised stuff only to be lied to, given crumbs, right? And so my thing is, if you find out that these people who have been voted in and you have a duty to the public, you shouldn't violate the trust of the public. And if it's found out that you have been cheating, right, all of these things, why don't they be fined? Why isn't there jail time? Because that's serious, violating the trust of the public. A lot of the things that they do constantly, you know, these circle of friendships, these business relationships that continue to keep the gap of the 1% controlling what, 80 to 90% of the world's wealth. And it hasn't changed over what, 200 and something years, right? And so the relationship to power with these people and with these organizations never changed, right? So my question is, how does that accountability looks? What does it look like?
That's good. Anybody else on that? It's good, guys. And let me say this too. I know this is a different subject, but as we did this Unity thing also to this, I'm dropping a commercial on y'all right now to donate to George Floyd's family. So we have, I think there may be on the live right now. Dave is behind me. So the people who are listening, you can donate, and it's strictly going all to George Floyd family. His brother is right here, and Jack's on there. They can check everything. Everything's going straight to his family, and Attorney Miller, me and him have talked about that. So just want to make sure everybody understands that we are trying to raise funds for George Floyd's family. And just want to make sure you can click on that donation button or whatever, I guess that's on the YouTube click to do that. So we're going to go ahead and go into another question here. And I believe this is AD's question. But this is really good what we're doing. If we can do this every day, I'm good. I'm good, you know. You know, this is good. But okay, so the question on the fourth question is, I'm sorry, the third question. Are we on third question?
Third.
Third, wow. Okay, the order of the day seems to be divisiveness. What are some of the things that we can focus on that will unite us instead of divide us? That's the key thing while we're doing this call. How can we unite blacks, white, green, yellow, purple, everybody, unite together? So I think that's AD's question. AD, was that your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think we've given the answers as we begin to talk. You know, Mahmoud talked about education, educating ourselves on what's going on. Steve talked about critical thinking. We've also talked about, hey, we have to kind of empower the young people and learn from them as we get into this environment, you know, but I think more than anything, our focus has to be on kind of what's right and how do we get to a place where change is happening. And if that is about putting energy into getting out and protesting, if that is using your platform to talk about things that are going to kind of keep us together and our education, if that's going to be about teaching each other, as I learn some, I reach back and I grab my boy and I teach him. All these different things, I think, is what our focus has to be. And I think as long as, one, we have focus, we can't be divided because we all have that common thread as human beings. And Pri, I know we always talk from a spiritual standpoint. You know, I remember my wife telling our kids, you know, we're all M&Ms. We might look different on the outside, but in the inside, we're all the same. We're all created as magnificent, you know, individual human beings. There's only one of us. And our focus has to be, you know, that equality piece. It has to be because we're all the same. We're going to be in this world living together. And the thing that hurts me the most is that, you know, I often think, is it going to take, you know, something like, you know, one of these sci-fi movies where, you know, race isn't going to matter. You know, there's another being on this earth. Now all of a sudden we singing Kumbaya together. Now all of a sudden people of different races understanding that it's not just a black thing. You know, we're all getting treated unfairly because what they don't realize is, you know, if I'm getting treated unfairly, right, that's going to trickle down no matter what this is. Because, you know, I always talk about it. If you put people in this mode of survival, you know what I mean? They don't have enough. They're not thinking like a human being. They're thinking like an animal. And right now, they've almost put us in a place where we're thinking survival and thinking like an animal, and we ain't critical thinking. We're upset. We don't even know what critical thinking is. All we know is we got this pent up energy, you know, and we got this thing that we got to get off our chest. We've been treated so bad, you know, for so long that we have to do something. And I think all these things that we're talking about now, you know, will continue to keep us together. As we talked about having this one focus of unity, people have to understand that this is bigger than, you know, this change, even if it's just a little bit each and every day, is going to be bigger than, and I'm sure that's what Stack is fighting for, bigger than one death, you know, because before that one death, there was millions of others. You know, one of the reasons I got so involved in the NBA and all the things that was going on, because all those brothers before me that fought to allow me to play and make the money that I played, I have an obligation, right, to do what I can to keep that thing going, to continue to reach back to guys like Stack and teach him what I had so he can take it and move it forward. So we got to do this same thing now. I think the unity piece is the most important thing that we have right now, as not just as Blacks, but just as human beings. We have to stick together and form a new way of thinking, because just like Stack said, all these things get passed down and passed down and passed down. It gets to the point, can you even blame some of the people who are who have this racism mentality when that's all that they've seen and known throughout these generations? They kind of think that's the way it should be, right? And until we stick together and tell them that there's something different, they're going to continue to think that way. And I'm just one to believe that, listen, I don't care what happened. And this isn't just about skin color. This is just about being right. And as a spiritual man, I do believe that if we don't get it together, Big Daddy gonna come down and slap all of us. And he ain't gonna care what color you are. He don't care about none of that. It's gonna be very important for us to stick together during this time. And I'm so excited about these type of conversations and what we think about it as Black men and my movement. I got to tell you, I don't know if you got a podcast or something, bro, but I can listen to you talk all day. You know what I'm saying? It makes me want to go back and read more. And I have to admit this in front of you, brothers. Like, there's so much that I've learned over these past few months. I mean, Juneteenth, Black Wall Street, I heard it, right? But then again, we talk about having this knowledge. Like, I spent a whole day just going through Juneteenth. I spent a whole day on, I heard Shannon Sharp, my brother, talk about, you know, the flag and all this. And yes, there was Black people that fought, came home and still weren't free. And you ask, why are we angry? Come on, bro. You should ask why we're not angry. Why haven't we started tearing stuff up? We should be tearing stuff up. Give us some credit for not acting on our anger and being critical thinkers and not doing what's in our nature, right? Because now you done turned us into animals, right? And unless you want to see, you know, see this lion come out in me, you better start listening to what I got to say, right? Because at least now I'm old enough where I could sit back and start thinking about it. But my son ain't like that. My son ready to fly off the handle, because all he knows is he's pissed too. Because he's had conversations with my grandma, with my mom, with everybody. He understands it. So if nothing else, man, I don't even know how anybody could now be divided. But I think the one thing that I guess as I was watching some of the stuff unfold on TV, and again, we got to be very careful about what we let into our mind through our eyes and our ears, and how the media will portray certain things. We have to understand and give some grace to people who are angry. Because, you know, they would say, oh, the looting is disrupting this movement and blah, blah, blah. Maybe it is. But right now, I'm gonna give everybody some grace, because we're all ticked off. We're all pissed off, you know, and now we have to now gather ourselves and say, hey, what is it gonna take for us to make some real change, right? We got to get out there and talk like Stack. We got to back each other up with attorneys. We got to be smart about how we go about our day. Each one has to teach one. We got to read a book. Like, there's so many things that we have to do, and it is so critical that we do those things today, not just as Black men, but white men and Mexican men on down the line, because I'm telling you, we're going to find ourselves in trouble if we don't get this thing right.
That's good. That's
And I
good.
wanted to add,
MD snuck on, y'all. He snuck on the
MD, what up, boy?
MD!
I've been on.
I wanted to just add to what AD was saying. That looting, that's part of that energy. I wasn't upset with it. I don't want to see anything looted. I don't want to see anyone hurt, but that's just energy. And so it's our job to move that energy wherever. That was energy in its rawest, purest form. And we need to keep that momentum going. The youth will step up to lead and to focus it. Stack is out here focusing. I'm trying to focus it. We are all doing our part to focus it, but that's not a bad thing in my opinion. Right. The CNN Center, when they broke that sign at CNN the next day, it was back perfectly fixed. Looked beautiful, it looked the same, like it never got fixed. So why were we tripping over it in the first place? You know what I mean? That was dumb to me. I want to say this right here, because it is not, and white people I know a lot of, white, of course we all do, they have said to me, is this a black thing? And I say, no, it's not a black thing. This is everybody versus racism. It's not black versus white. It's everybody versus racism. It's everybody versus crooked cops. It's everybody versus bad laws. It's everybody versus politicians who are stagnant. It's everybody versus qualified immunity. It's us against the system, and us is everyone. The youth have shown us when we go to these rallies, there are people of all colors out there, everybody pushing in the same direction. And so that shows me that they got it together better than we got it together. The issues that we have with older black folks and white folks, and I'm talking about older, like our parents' age, their parents' age, those issues are slowly changing because the youth, the young people who we have today who are coming up, they are on it. And I think they're more together than we've ever been as far as racially. And hopefully that just continues as they get older so that we see a change in all of that.
If I can also, man, just chime in a little bit, because Anthony, you're talking about how, it's important that we give everyone, even those who are out there tearing up property, giving everyone grace, because people are frustrated, they're angry. And anger is a great emotional tool. The Black Panthers talked about how they use rage. For first, James Baldwin said, if you black living in this country, you're almost always in a rage. But they talked about how emotions could be used as a political tool, and how even rage could be used as a political tool. And sometimes, they want to pacify us and trick us. They're very sophisticated with language, right? And have us thinking, well, this is something that we shouldn't be doing. Like, say, you don't want to hurt anybody. But at the same time, we're tired of being hurt. And it just blows and we have to find a way, you said it, to channel this anger and have them understand, well, your anger is a good thing, but let it benefit you. Don't let it destroy you. And it blows my mind when I'm listening to the media and they using the same sentence. Well, we know there's a lot of injustice, but protest peacefully. That don't even exist in biology. It don't exist in nature. If I'm unjust to my body, I'm feeding my body the wrong things, my body's gonna catch a cold, pneumonia, it's gonna catch a sore throat, I'm gonna catch cancer. It's gonna let me know. Nature is that way. You got acid rain, all of these things begin to happen when you start corrupting the earth, but you expect us beating us upside the head, denying us access to this, access to that, but yet be peaceful. That's pacifying. And we can't fall for the trickery. And so many do. So I thought that was beautiful, that you brought that up.
And AKA the smoke screen. That's really the same thing. My whole movement is built off love for all who have love for all. And it's just that simple. They want to make it rocket science. It's real simple. Treat people how you want to be treated. And I'm fine with standing with all races. But with all races that standing with me, you got to stand with me pushing the evil out. I'm only standing with the righteous. I'm only standing with the righteous. You know what I mean? And righteous come in all races, all colors. And that's what I'm standing with.
That's right. Or step to the side.
Right.
And I just want to interject. Attorney Stewart said it best. It's everybody versus racism.
That's right.
It's everybody versus right or wrong. And I just thought that stood out. Everybody wants to make it, black, white. No, it's everybody versus right and wrong, because we all fundamentally as human beings, what's right from wrong. So if it's wrong, we all stand against the system. So I thought that was fantastic what he said. And I think also, I just want to add, when I used to go through my things, I always go to my older brother. He's 15 years older than me, because I'm a Christian. I tell him this, I complain, and he'd always quiet because of this. His nature is always calm. Mine a little bit more, sometimes excited.
Yeah.
Can you shut up and listen? All your answers is in the Bible. So go get it. And so that's the one thing he always used to tell me, go find your answers. And so I just want to say is all you guys are saying is, I'm getting chills with this everything y'all saying, because this is something we all need.
That's good. That's good. Hey, I gotta say this, MD, you're not taking a picture. We on Zoom. You like you taking a picture or something.
Hey, man,
You had mood yet? You had mood yet, man?
hey,
That's a glamour shot. That's that Olin Mills.
man, hey, Phil, you already know.
Olin Mills.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I had to say that, brother. You know I love you. I love you.
Already.
Get him off you, M. Get him off you, M.
Get him out.
Free. That's free. He ain't seen me in a while, Jay.
Yeah, man. I just want to kind of piggyback off also Steve Smith, what he said earlier, man. Just for all of us to be on this platform, it's been very thought provoking, insightful, and it's the type of thing that, you know, like Anthony said, man, makes you want to go back. And every time you engage with people that are, you know, genuine, that are really seeking to know, and not just to know for the sake of knowing, but knowing for the sake of doing something about it.
Yeah.
Man, it inspires you to want to go know and do more, you know, and you know, there's a political activist named Arundhati Roy, man, and there's two things, and I don't know how much time we have, but real quick, she says something that I'm always thinking about, to stay humble and to stay hungry, but she says, once you see something, you can't unsee it. To be silent, to say nothing, is just as political an act as speaking out. Either way you're accountable. I said, darn. I said, so if I'm silent, I can't unsee it. If I'm silent, I'm just as accountable. I said, well, I might as well go for broke, right? To me. But George Washington Carver says something, I think, too, man. I think all of us here, I think we strive for this in our own way. And it's something I think about every time I wake up. He says, no one has the right to come into this world, then go out of it without leaving behind distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it. And there's no better way to leave. And so if you're going to leave a legacy worth leaving. And I don't think there's no better legacy than the fight for the right for human dignity of all human beings. You know, there's a saying that the goal in life is to find your gift. The purpose in life is to give it away. Like an old preacher said back in the day, he never heard of a U-Haul on back of a hearse. You can't take none of this with you. Your knowledge, your wealth, all of this should be used to benefit everybody around you. Otherwise, you live the wasted existence. So man, all of this has been beautiful and it's definitely inspiring. I just want to thank all of you, man, from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good. Hey, this is great, man. And, you know, I always tell people, you know, always be empathetic, because if Trey, when Trey came to me and I saw how he was hurt, it hurt me. You see what I'm saying? And I think that in life, we have a way of just turning the other way and not really empathizing for my brother that's hurting. You know what I'm saying? If George Floyd is younger than me, if he was my little brother, I'd be going crazy. But I believe that in life, we must empathize for every single person. That could be your son. You know, that could be your son. And so I just think that it's so important that we're talking about unity, and we're talking about how our youth can be the change, that we make sure that we implement, as we're talking about our next, we're going to have a big unity rally we're trying to do it September 12th from 4 to 7th. Hopefully with Corona, you know, we'll be all right. But we really want to create implementation to reach to our youth and really push what we're trying to talk about here is coming together. So I wanted to say that. Anybody got anything they want to add? We're gonna go to this fourth question here.
Yes, man. I swear I ain't trying to monopolize.
Keep going.
So much stuff is being said, man. You said something, and I think that's very key. He is our brother. He is our son.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the way we got to begin to see it, because we become so desensitized to killing and murder. It's all around us. You know, I talk about it a lot when I go speak, and I say we become so desensitized. We don't view death the same. Like, this is our conversation. Hey, man, you know, George Floyd passed away, got killed. Oh, my goodness. Man, may God have mercy on his soul, man. I hope his family, you know, gets through this, you know, all right. Hey, man, what you doing, lady? You want to go shoot some pool? We don't think about, okay, how did this death affect George Floyd? Was he the sole breadwinner? if he was, how's it going to affect his wife, his children? What's the emotional cost? What's the social cost? What's the psychological cost in losing a soul like that? We don't think about death to that extent. So that's why it's easy to write it off. We have to look at each person. When we look at them like, man, I have to look at you like we vision becoming successful, like we can see ourselves becoming successful, like to where we get out there and we work for it. Same thing. When I look at you, I see me. I see my son.
Right.
I see it like so clearly, and that keeps us angry. And that anger is going to fuel us to continue to move forward and not to allow these type of movements, which was why I love what you're doing, Stack. You're constantly on the road. You're constantly out there, because so many, when it's time to go back to work, and I understand that people got to make a living, but we recede in the backdrop, and they know this. Now that's going to die down, and we lose sustaining these type of movements. But until we begin to look at each other like, no, man, that is my brother. That is my son. That is my father. And see it with a clarity, we'll continue. It'll hit us for a minute, and then we on to the next death. We on to the next murder until millions are murdered. And then we have to wait another 100 years before something like this happens.
And, you know, it's so good, Matt, what you say, because Attorney Miller told me about 2-3 weeks ago, he said, help me keep the gas on. Help me keep the gas on the pedal for what we're talking about. And that's why I'm grateful that I was able to speak to y'all, and me and Trey talk, and we all come together, but to be consistent about this movement and it continue to, you know, Stack, you're doing an amazing job just out there pushing, man. And so we got to understand, man, we all got to do our part. It's so important.
Our youth need that. Our youth really need that. They need, you know, the guidance. They have the technology now that we didn't have coming up. Right. So they have a little more insight on everything that's going on, that's happening in the world. So as long as we keep visualizing, the youth keep visualizing things that's happening, and like you said, on YouTube, videoing with their phone, you know, the technology is there. We didn't have this all before. So we had to endure everything that was being done to us. We couldn't tell nobody because we didn't know how they were going to react if we told them, because they were just as afraid as the officers, police, as well as we were. So we didn't have that understanding. Now, like Justin said, you know, tell somebody, let somebody know what's going on and relay the information. But at the time that it's happening, you can't be angry, you can't be mad. You have to accept what is being told to you or what is being said to you, and then you take that and then you allow somebody else to handle the situation for you. You know, where we was coming up, we wanted to handle the situation ourselves. That's what got a lot of us, you know, killed, locked up in bad situations. But the youth, their understanding, they're not going to take what we took. They're not going to allow that to happen to us much longer. And like Jack, you know, going out, letting these youngsters know that you have a voice, that somebody's going to listen to you. Somebody will hear what you have to say. You know, back in the day, nobody really wanted to hear, or they heard it, but they didn't do anything about it. Now people are doing something about it. And we are the ones who need to help these youngsters, like you say, get over that hurdle so our grandkids and kids don't have to go through that.
That's good, man. That's good. It truly is about our kids and our grandkids, you know. And I know Brother Jamal, he has probably about 27 kids, so but we'll keep that between us. Yeah, we'll keep that between us. But hey, we're gonna go to this next question here. Question number 4. This is for Stack here. Our youth can be the change. Our youth can be the change. How can we empower our kids to be in the forefront of leading the way? And that's question number 4.
Well, I think for the most part, all you gotta do is open your eyes. Like Mahmoud said now, and somebody else said, just open your eyes. When you look at these marches, it's kids out there. And this is why I'm looking to offend people and why I'm not holding my punches. Because you have kids out there that's marching. You have families that's never made $1 million, that's never made $100,000 in their life, but they out there risking it all. How can I not? How could I not be out there standing right outside when my life has been so great? So the youth, and they can, it's more than one way to be involved in this movement. You don't have to be out there, but I'm just saying, it's kids out there, it's people that's out there willing to risk it all, but it's millions of ways. Just like when people find somebody that's racist and they film them, exploit their ass, put them all over Instagram and make them lose their jobs. They don't like that. We holding everybody accountable. That's why change is happening. You can't say you support me from a DM, but you're not out here marching with me. That don't work. That don't fly no more. You can't say you support Black people from a distance and expect us to stay off you. No, that don't work. You have to be action on the side of me, feeling my pain, marching with me, getting stuff done. And now that we holding people accountable, now that the youth is holding people accountable, now the people that can't be out there marching is holding people accountable, that's why change is happening, and we have to keep the foot on the gas.
Emphasize. That's good. Emphasize.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Trey, you want to say something? No. Oh, okay.
I'm listening and learning. Educational. It's very educational. I'm so glad.
He always this cool, y'all. This ain't nothing new.
And what you said,
unless he hooping.
I was thinking the same thing.
Unless he hooping.
Going at
I ain't never known him to be this quiet. Hey, but and one thing is that this is one thing I always tell people: there's no such thing as comfortable Christianity, right? You know, I'm a follower of Christ too, and I just believe there's no such thing as that. And so I think that we've become comfortable, you know, and that's a bad place to be, really. You know, you cannot stay in your place of comfort, and then you have X amount of people out here going through A, B, and C, and D. And so I just appreciate your point on that, man. There has to be action. There has to be men picking up boys that need mentorship and taking them along with you. You know, I'm a person that when I was being raised, you know, when I saw a husband and a mother in a house, you know, I remember my next door neighbor. There were two parents in that home, and I would go over there and eat all their food because we didn't have a lot of food in my house. I go eat their food. So, but I saw that, and so a lot of kids really need to see, you know, men like us reach back and help. So I wanted just to say that. I think Justin want to say. I kind of sensed Mr. Miller want to say something.
Listen, man, I'm letting you tell your story, man. You're doing a great job. Just make sure you tell them about how you got my polos when we were roommates, and you took my polos and you were wearing them. It all fits in.
I ain't gonna tell that. We on live TV. I can't tell everybody I used to steal now. We can't tell people that.
It wasn't stealing from me. We brothers. You can take mine. It's all good. You know that.
Yeah. Pre, man, you said something that was powerful, you know, and even though I'm not a Christian, man, I love truth where I find it. Mm-hmm. And even Jesus, man, Jesus was a revolutionary. You know, he challenged the system, the banking system. That's why they were after him. He said in the scriptures, he told his disciples after a period, he was about love too, yes, but he was about self-defense. He told his disciples, sell your garments to buy swords. They wasn't buying swords to cut up trees and apples. No, it's time now. It got to the point, just like Martin Luther King at the end, he says, you know what, the cup is runneth over. This nonviolence is not an end in and of itself, right? It's like all movements, it started nonviolent, but if you continue to do these things, we have to defend ourselves. And the history of Jesus has been one that he challenged the system. He was revolutionary. And we can't forget that, because sometimes they want to pacify you with turn the other cheek, turn the other one and give them your cloak also. Yeah, that's true too. But also that other side is true. There comes a time when, okay, the human being can only take so much, and you are in your right by God to defend yourself. So I'm glad y'all brought that up.
That's good. That's good.
There was so many cheeks you could turn.
Got two, don't MD?
Well, you got both.
That's what I say. Get two more.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna go to our last question here, and this is for Brother Jamal here. Pastor Jamal, it says, "What is the inheritance that we want to leave our kids and our grandkids? What is the inheritance that we want to leave for our kids?" I'm sorry. Remember, I already told y'all that one of the people on here taught me how to read when I was 18. So sorry about that. Y'all go ahead.
No, thank you, man. Man, this has just been an amazing discussion on so many different levels. I hope you guys can hear me, but I've been having some issues with internet. As Andrew knows, I only have 5 kids, and they're all on devices somewhere
Right
in
now.
this house. Yeah, right this minute. Right this minute. And I'm trusting that most of them are watching this, but no guarantees there.
Get your coat hanger. Get one of them coat hangers and put it on the phone right there.
Yeah, that's yeah, right. I thought you may get the coat hanger to spank them. But listen, man, this is good. I was thinking about this whole issue of inheritance. I think I feel like these young people are beginning to walk into an inheritance already. That they're stepping up into it, and there is this tension that we hold as we look back, and on the one hand we recognize there has been both change and some progress to a degree. However, the thing that these young people also need to hold on to is that there is still yet change that needs to happen, and I love the fact that they're moving forward, and Brother Mahmoud kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I'm gonna keep going in that direction. But I love the revolutionary Jesus. As a pastor, as a follower of Christ, man, I love the table turning over Jesus. Like that's my guy. Because he definitely confronted an established system and said, no, we can't continue to do it this way. I love that. In fact, I was teaching today. Interestingly enough, my message was on the Sermon on the Mount today, about when Jesus taught about loving your enemies, and oftentimes there is this emasculated view of Jesus as it relates to this loving of your enemies. And one of the things that I had to broaden that from this perspective, and Jesus loved his enemies by confronting them. He love, one of the that I said is that love confronts. Love doesn't leave a person in a disadvantaged situation or a delusioned situation and just let the train go off the track. No, he loved people by calling them to repentance, called them to change. Love calls to change. As a father, I love my children. And one of the ways that I love them is I confront them with behavior that is not in their best interest and call them to change. And so I think as a part of this, love requires change. And I hope that our young people will step into that. They will step into this continuing to call to change. I believe it was Brother Nathan Wright who said something that was so interesting. He said, you cannot have you can't put a chain on the ankle of the oppressed and the oppressor not have a noose tied to their own neck. The reality is that the oppressor is also a part of being imprisoned. And so it's important that we call for change. And I don't know how you serve Jesus and not call for change. I don't know how you serve Jesus and not be in the middle of saying, there is injustice in this arena, and we must call it out for what it is. And so the inheritance that I hope that they hold on to, number one, is I hope they keep hope. Maintain hope by staying in this fight. Maintain hope by continuing to call for change. Maintain hope by reaching and believing it can be better in our generation. We can have more in our generation. We don't have to wait. As I have been just reflecting on history, and I've been going back and just listening to things that were taught in the 50s and taught in the 60s, and I've been listening to messages that people preach, and I've been listening to the things that the Panthers were saying and Malcolm X was saying, and I've just been listening, and I've been sitting back going, wow, like what was said 50 years ago, the same exact speech could be spoken today. That's a problem. That is a problem. And so the inheritance that I hope our kids would say is, okay, let's make something happen. And for me, as a follower of Christ, I'm going to do whatever I can to inspire some other revolutionaries to say, yes, let's do something different. I loved walking through the streets of Atlanta with my teenage sons and my sons saying, hey, I want to be a part of this. I want to see something change here. I loved walking through the streets and seeing my son with his fist in the air saying, yeah, let's do something different. Let's go a different place. And we're leaving from that march. And he's like, Dad, I'll come do this again tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, let's come do this again. This, I think, I am not a fan of the weak, emasculated view of Jesus. It's inaccurate. First of all, it's biblically inaccurate. You cannot study the Gospels and find that Jesus. He was very much a revolutionary, and when the Bible calls him meek, you need to understand the definition of the word meek, because we think meek means weak. No, meek is strength under control. And to my brother who talked about the young people and their need for some direction, I believe that part of our role is to help this river of energy, this river of momentum. I think the old cats can be riverbanks to help that thing steer, not necessarily to shut it down, but to help steer it in the right direction. And so, but we needed to keep flowing. And so again, I hope that the inheritance that we leave is an inheritance of hope, an inheritance of continuing to call for change. And Lord, help us if we're having this conversation 50 years from now. Please, Lord, let us not be having this same conversation 50 years from now, because I was grieved as I'm reading and listening and hearing the same kinds of things going, why in 2021 can the same speech be spoken from 1969? It's time to change. And I hope that they'll keep carrying that baton. So those are my thoughts.
It's not only the same speech. If you take a lot of the images that you see and you turn them into black and white, some of the same exact images.
Absolutely.
It's nothing. And man, you almost took me back to my pre-Muslim days. I was about to say hallelujah when you said, when you made the statement, man, Jesus loved his enemies by confronting them, and love confronts.
Yes.
Man, we've been saying this for years. And it reminded me, I think Cornel West said it. Justice is what love looks like in public. So when you confront something, you're always confronting it with the mindset of making justice an institution.
Yeah.
Not just something that's just pertaining to individuals. No, you want to make it a system, an institution. That was just beautiful, man. You almost had me go back.
Come on, man.
You said something that I was saying. I think we talked about this in Minnesota. Nothing has really changed, in my opinion, from 1969 until now. It's all pretty much the same. They cover a lot more stuff up, but it's pretty much the same. The only difference is the technology is better now. So we're seeing more of what's happening now, but the same things were happening from the 60s until now. So now you got camera phones and you got instant access to media to show the whole world what's going on. And then you got people like Stack who can boost what you're showing and show it to 1 million more people. But back then they didn't have it. You just got killed on the side of the road, and the police said whatever they said, and that was the end of it. So you were spot on with that, man. It's a different world because of the media, and we have to use that to our advantage. And I think the kids are doing that.
Yeah.
Even with technology, though, they still hiding it. Since my brother's been murdered, it's been over 180 shootings or murders by police. So they still hiding it. So that's a reason for us to go harder. Just alone that stat alone, it's a reason for us to go harder.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, this is beautiful, y'all. This is beautiful, man. This is great. This is really. I could go another hour. I love this guy. Hey, I just want to go around the room and just last words as we're upon our time here. I know some of y'all have some chitlins y'all got to eat. I think Steve ice cream bell just came on. Y'all heard that bell? That was Steve ice cream bell.
Steve.
Ice cream. But we just go around the room. Just some last words of me and Trey. Our heart is to have this unity rally on September 12th from 4 to 7. We have a stadium that we're going to use that Trey and his wife have gotten. And so we want to keep the movement going, just like my brother Justin Miller asked me just to help him push and keep pushing. And so we have a date of September 12th, and we would love to have y'all come speak at that time. Just pending Corona, everybody feels safe and everything like that. So let's just go around the room and this last words from everybody.
I'll start. Let me start because I got Steve, Dale, Mahmoud. Y'all all basically raised me in some type of way. And what I'm doing now, I've been molded for this moment because of the mentorship you gave me, Steve, from seeing you, Dale, how you always stood like a strong Black man and represented us well. Mahmoud, from the conversations we've had, from me asking you and telling you how I want to grow and things that I need to know going forward. I think all y'all inspire me. I think the reason why I've embraced this is because of the relationship I've had with the guys older than me and the inspiration y'all have always showed me. So I thank y'all, and I'm honored to be on this call with y'all. Justin, I think what you and Chris are doing, I think that gave me more momentum to have y'all in Minnesota standing with me side by side and having some smart brothers knowing what they talking about, where I can be me and I don't have to be something I'm not. That gave me more momentum to fight. That gave me more motivation to fight. So I have to thank you, bro, because even though I'm out there the face and out there on the front line, what y'all doing from behind is constantly letting me know I'm protected, constantly letting me know that I can fight this fight and I got people behind me supporting me. Trey, y'all know what it is, man. I'm glad y'all put this together. I'm glad to be a part of it. I want to continue to make everybody proud. Anything y'all got going on for my people, y'all know I'm 10 toes down. And I just thank y'all again for having me.
That's great. That's great. All right, brother Mahmoud.
I'm gonna keep it brief this time.
Hey, we listening though. It don't matter. We listening.
Yeah, man. Look, every last person, man, on this platform, man, I'm just deeply grateful. I'm super inspired, and I never try to use my words loosely. I'm gonna get off this phone, man. I just bought some books yesterday. I'm constantly in the bookstore, man. I'm so excited to get off and just learn some more and educate myself. But man, Stack, just the fact that you're consistently out there on the ground, with the people, man, it's an inspiration. The fact that here we are, a lot of us are athletes, all of us were athletes, and this worn out narrative that, kind of like the blonde back in the day, that blondes wasn't intelligent, like athletes don't have a mind of their own, can't think, and just to be on this platform, because many of us, we didn't, during the season, we didn't make this opportunity to sit down and have these type of dialogues. So, we didn't know what each one had to offer in terms of information, but man, just to sit here and listen to everybody sounding so articulate, thought-provoking, it constantly gives me hope, and it destroys, and even though we know the older we get, but destroys the narrative that people get out there about us. And man, I'm just super grateful, man. May God continue to bless every last one of you. And let's continue to keep our gas on the pedal.
That's right. Right, AD, somebody got their grass cutting or something out there. Sound like somebody.
That ain't me, bro. That is not. That is not.
That probably Smitty. That probably Smitty.
Yeah.
So always on me. You always on me.
Smitty got them landscapers back there. You know what I'm saying?
AD, go ahead with your last words, brother.
Man, all I do, I humbly say thank you, man, for involving me, even thinking of me in that way. This here has, taking my my thoughts to a whole nother level about kind of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. I do believe that, staying united is the key to change. And I think the one thing that I'm taking from this today, amongst many other things that Mahmoud said, was we have to stay so connected to what's going on that we feel every time we see something, that's my brother, that's my dad, that's my son. Because that's the only way we're going to be able to keep pushing forward and not let this thing fall in the back, is that we see it and it touches us in a way to make us want to say something, to give us some energy, to encourage the young people, to guide, to lead, to continue to wake up every day and do the things that we need to do. And I think the other thing that Smitty said too is we have to be very critical thinkers, man. We just have to. And I'm such a, even more so now, trying to understand what that means and how I can actively be a part of the solution and actively be a part of change. I'm right here. I'm in Oakland, California now, and I'm sure we all grew up in a neighborhood that, warrants us to get out, roll up our sleeves, and do something. And there's so many issues going on here, man. I wake up every day, and it's almost like I can't breathe and I can't function. I'm in, homeless encampments and all of that. And this virus, has made it so bad that people are losing hope, man, and it's so important for us, as we are united, as we are talking, as we are uplifting. Again, don't let anybody tell you your words and your actions aren't powerful. I gain strength by you, brothers. I thank God for you, brothers. And I wish blessings upon blessings. And as we move forward, let's not let's not forget that it only takes a little bit to create a big change. So if it's saying a word, if it's pushing young people, if it's guiding, if it's teaching somebody else, if it's grabbing somebody, whatever it is, you make sure you do something every day, no matter how small, to create that big change.
Hey, AD, thank you so much. All right, Smitty.
First of all, I want to start off and say I love y'all, love all of y'all. And I mean, I just
Same here, man.
And I want to say, start off with you, Captain Jack. I'm so proud of you. Just like the days we go back to our San Antonio days, when I got a chance to watch you go from that level of opportunity, and we're talking basketball now, I got the same proudness right now and even more to see you. So I loved all our talks, loved everything, and then to see you put all this to action on and off the court. So I want to tell you that I love you. Justin, everything you're doing, all you brothers, Mark, AD, Trey, Pre, I love you guys. Something's been on my heart. I'll tell you this. I go back to my neighborhoods in the east side of Detroit, and a pillar of my neighborhood told me this. He said, Steve, your energy to come back to see these young brothers play and be around, I love it. But don't forget, you got to have that same energy to come back to see our young sisters. and what they're doing. Come watch them when they're doing their gymnastics. Come watch when they have recitals. And I want to leave that to y'all heart because we all get excited about our young brothers in sports and other things they're doing. And we tailgate, we come back, we had these conversations. But please, for all of us to give that same energy to our young sisters and what they're doing. You know, and I just want to say love y'all. Accountable. Jack said that. That's one thing I want to be. And love you guys and us stay united.
Love you too, Smitty.
Yeah, love you too.
Yeah, I got 3 daughters, bro, so I ain't got no choice. I gotta be that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I just
no
think,
choice. Yeah.
you know, we do, you do, but I didn't have daughters, and I need myself. I'm only speaking myself to do more, but wanted to get that message out.
I hear you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, bro. Love you too, Steve.
Brother Attorney Miller.
Wait a minute, Bree. You sure you love me, AD? Because the way you used to elbow me when we played. I want to make sure.
That was business, bro.
Hey, no,
that ain't personal.
Love confronts.
There you go.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
That makes you better.
Hey, it was so crazy, man. You know what? For me, you know, when I played against guys, I felt like if I don't come out and do my best, it's almost disrespectful. Like if I don't come out and push as hard as I can, play as hard as I can, I'm being disrespectful to you guys because, you know, at the end of the day, every game I was just happy to be there, bro. Sometimes I had to pinch myself, like, how am I here? Like, there's no way. You know, a skinny little kid from Oakland, California, who really didn't learn how to play until I was overseas, to be honest. And here I am in the league. I'm like, oh my goodness. So it was a respect thing, Smitty. It really was, bro. Really
I guess I took it that way.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, Attorney Miller.
So I just want to say I am thankful and happy that all of you guys are here. I know that you guys' voices are going to push this to a whole nother level. Like what Stack is doing, I mean, that is beautiful. And with you guys kicking in and pushing in and helping him and helping us, it's just going to go to a whole nother level because we have to keep this momentum while we have it. A couple things, I just always like to talk about solutions, right? So since we started this, people ask me, what's wrong, what's going on? And I tell them, but then I also want to say, here are the solutions. Here are the things that you can do to help. Here are the things you can tell other people do to help to keep everything going. Because I think one of the problems is, and we all see it, America is not America for all Americans. It's just America for some people. Mm-hmm. And for some of us, it is not giving us what they told us it was going to give us in social studies class when we were in elementary school. So one thing I would say is this: vote. And I know a lot of people are saying they don't want to vote now. I have a lot of friends saying that voting is stupid. It doesn't matter who you vote for. And right now, if you vote the presidential election, you have Biden and you have Trump, right? And those are not appealing choices to a lot of people, either one of them. What I say about that is this: don't vote for Biden or don't vote for Trump. Vote for the Supreme Court, all right? Because what you're voting for is the person who's going to pick the next Supreme Court justice. So you vote for the person you think will put somebody in that seat, because it's a seat that's for life, that is in line with what you feel and what you think. And most of the appointees that we have seen from Trump so far have not been in line with the things that we want and the things we've been talking about. It's also not just Supreme Court, it is other federal judges, and we have them in every state. So, you know, the president and that branch gets to appoint all of those federal judges, the ones in Georgia, the ones in Michigan, the ones in California. And so all of those people take their orders from the people who, the person who appoints them. So if it's Trump, then they're going to be Trump-ish. If it's Biden, they're going to be Biden-ish. So just understand, when you say I'm not going to vote, you're also not voting for all of those things. Also, the head person, the head lawyer who prosecutes all federal cases, right? The attorney general, that person is appointed by that branch of government as well. So you want someone on your side. And to have someone on your side, you need to vote so that the person who's in the White House can appoint somebody who understands your issues. That's number one with voting. The second thing with voting is it's even more important to vote on the local level than it is on the national level, because on the local level, it's like we're dealing with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery's case and Rayshard Brooks's case here in Atlanta. The people who are making decisions about whether to indict the police, lock them up, the person who's going to make the decision on whether they stay in jail, these people are all local level people who you can vote for. So you can vote for a district attorney, you can vote for judges, you can vote for politicians who make the laws that say, if a cop does something wrong, you can go after him. These are people you can vote for, so you have a direct impact into who is going to be there to help you when you need that help. So like Pastor said, in Atlanta, we have a lot of people that look like us because we're the ones who are voting these people into office. But in other places, we have to coalesce and come together and vote these people into office as well. So always think about that. When you hear somebody say, I'm not going to vote, it doesn't matter, please tell them it does matter. And these are the reasons it matters. And if you ever have a question or an issue about that, talk to me, find me, hit me up, and I will explain it 1,000 times because it's very, very, very important. And then the last thing I want to say is, and going back to the beginning of what we said, if you are ever in a situation where you are mistreated by the police or you feel like you don't have a voice and a say and you don't know what to do, you can try to get in contact with me. I don't know, Andrew, if you are putting my information somewhere so people can get in contact with me, but what we try to do when that situation happens, we want to get the police fired. We want to get them arrested. We want to get them convicted. We want to see them do the same time that they would do as if we did it. So if I kill somebody, I want the same thing to happen to that police officer. And then the last thing we want to do is make sure that we have some kind of reparations for that family, because I'm not sure who said it earlier, but that family is going to lose a lot immediately. Right when that person is dead, they lose, all of the income that person brought in, all of the love, all of the support. So we have to be there to step in. So if you have any questions about that, please get in contact with me. Thank you. And I just want everybody to keep pushing. And thank you guys, man.
That's good. That's good. I'm gonna go and give everybody your cell phone number, your address, everything on live here.
I got 6 cell phones now. It's all good. Let's do it.
That's good. But that's Stewart and Miller trial lawyers, attorneys on. They're on IG, right? Just on IG.
Yeah. It's on IG right now. Stewart Trial Attorneys. My IG is jmilleresq at Instagram. You can DM me at any time, and I'll talk to anybody about anything, especially this stuff. So I'm here if anybody needs me. And Stack, and everybody knows this guy. Stack has how many? You got 8 million followers now. You got more than Kanye.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, he killing now. So if you can't find me, find him. He knows how to find me. He can text me, instantly.
He all over my page. He all over my page.
We are pushing in the same direction. So let's just keep moving. This is a movement. The thing that I'm gonna stop talking because I'm starting to feel like Brother Mahmoud over here. The one thing I want to say is this: my heart. This stuff hurts my heart because it is personal. Every single time you are talking to people's families and children and friends and loved ones, and so it's not just a job; it's a personal thing. So it ain't just we're trying to do something because it's our job. We're doing this because we love everybody and we feel like we want to do what we can do to help too. So let's keep pushing forward. And if you need me, I'm here.
That's right. That's right. All right, MD. You ain't taking no photo now. You can talk.
Holding the mills.
Yo,
hold on, bro.
Hold on, bro. I thought you the one that had that lawnmower in the back, but it was Smitty though.
Yeah, it was Smitty.
MD, unmute yourself.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
MD, there you go.
Yeah, hey man, like everyone said, it was a pleasure just being on here with you guys and using this platform, as athletes, like Mark said, they felt like we were just basketball players, but our voice and who we are, says a lot, and people listen to, what we have to say. So as AD said as well, we have to keep letting these youngsters know that we're behind them. And if we can give them any type of knowledge, any type of substance on what's going on, or how to act, or how to, you know, control themselves in public, we need to do that, because we all is one. You know, we all need each other, but those youngsters really need us, you know, to guide them in the right direction.
Brother Jamal, sir.
Listen, I just want to say thank you for, you know, even allowing me to be on this platform with you guys. Unlike what Brother Mahmoud said, I am the one non-athlete on this call. I'm the 5'3" pastor that I could not get into the NBA if I had dreamt it. You know, Spud did it, but I wasn't on Spud's level. But anyway, I'm so glad that I just had this opportunity just to be with you guys. What I tell you, there's so many takeaways from me. I love the collaboration. I love the diversity of thought, you know, the diversity of energy and motivation that we have here, the different areas of expertise. I mean, I'm looking at Jackson. To me, he's like, you know, he's like the Marine. You know, he's out there on the front line with his AK-47, you know, blowing stuff up, throwing grenades. You know, I mean, you know, then you got some of the, you got, you know, my brother, the attorney, he's handling the legal aspects of it, and Mark Moose, he's the intellectual, he's that college sociology teacher that's educating us all. You know, I mean, and you got these classy brothers, Steve Smith and Antonio and Mark Davis, man. I appreciate you guys just allowing me to be on this and be a part of this think tank, you know, and I can continue to glean from one another. This is, you know, again, unity is a part of this, and us being able to come together with what we have and bring it to the table. You know, one of the pictures that we talk about in church a lot is, you know, the church is a body. It's the body of Christ, and each of us have these different parts of the body. And one of us might be a foot, one of us might be a hand, one of us might be a leg or shin, but our connectedness to each other is what makes us effective. And so I just want to encourage us to stay connected in some way, because we need what each other brings to the table, and we need to stay unified, and we need to lean on each other. So, you know, Andrew, they call you Pre. I didn't know nothing about Pre, man, until I got on the call with these brothers. So I just know you as Andrew.
Well,
so,
we will talk about that on a different day.
Yeah, we're talking about. I need to know the origin of this Pre thing. Yeah, I'm sure there's a story behind this. But I appreciate your vision, and Trey, man, I appreciate you guys just wanting to be out there on the ground and make some things happen for young people. So let's just keep moving forward, guys, and do our part in this, and continue to get better, and let iron sharpen iron in this whole process. So thanks again for the invitation. It's been an honor to be on this platform with you guys. It truly has.
Look, Pastor, you're the how do I say this? You're the spiritual athlete. You're shooting jumpers and crossing over in enlightening people. You're the 5'3" Muggsy Bogues.
I'll take it.
Muggsy Bogues wasn't no joke.
No.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, Trey gonna say something, y'all. He finally gonna talk.
Hey, this has been very, very good, man. Thank you guys, man. This has been very educational, man, for me. Just to hear you guys' outlook on everything. My boy Floyd, he would want me and Jack to be doing this. He would want us to keep his name alive, man. This is my brother. He's nothing but a positive guy, regardless of what people trying to spread about the guy. I've been knowing him, like I said, I know his whole story. And he 150% would want us to do this and keep his name going. I'm 100% in, man, with these kids. I'm in the field. I'm on the front line with Jack. I'm 10 toes in, man. I'm behind you guys. I hope we can keep this going and emphasize and just keep our foot on the gas. And thank you guys so much. I love every one of you brothers. I learned so much today. Just sitting back listening and just getting another get another view on stuff. So thank you guys again for taking the time out and just taking the time out and just helping to get through this. Thank you guys so much.
Free.
Hey,
He did better than Russell Simmons on Comedy Jam. You know, thank y'all for coming out. Have a good day.
God bless you.
God bless. Good night.
Hey, you getting ready to start? You getting ready to get your own podcast? Right?
There it is. I gotta have you on there with me though, bro.
hey, Russ Simmons ain't had no S curl like this though.
Oh,
Smith, you
there
see this S curl?
There you go.
Hey, I can't let you do my boy Trey like that. I'm
Hey,
telling
man,
y'all.
I got
It's the two things he always
man.
had. Basketball game and good hair. That's his claim to fame.
My dad was on his best
That's
game,
it.
dog.
Hey,
Oh, the Elbow You in the Throat podcast.
Hey, one last time, man. Thank everybody. I want to thank also TSF allowing us to use their YouTube.
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate Boss and Josh, man. We appreciate you guys. Love you guys, man. We're going to do something again September 12th. Reminder to make a donation. Where's it at, Dave? It's on the About tab. This is on the About tab, and all that funds will go directly to the Floyd family. I don't think none of us on this platform, none of us need any money. It's all going to the Floyd family. So just want you guys to know that. And we sincerely appreciate everybody on this call. Thank you for taking the time away from your family to do this. And we appreciate everybody listening in.
Hey, Stack, why don't you close out, man, with your hashtag, man? I think it's fitting.
Love for all who have love for all.
It is.
already.
God bless, bro.
Love y'all,
Yeah.
man.
Appreciate it. Love y'all, man. Be good. Be safe.
Stay safe.
Take care, brothers.
They say